Throughout history, there have been people who have committed some of the most heinous crimes fathomable. For those crimes, they have been convicted and sentenced to death. Welcome to Death Row Executions, where we take a look into the lives of society's worst offenders. And now, your host, Air.
A convicted killer's fate is now in the hands of a jury today. The sentencing phase of Marlin Joseph's trial, it starts today.
Marlin Larice Joseph grew up in Palm Beach County, Florida with his siblings and his mother, Robin Denson. By the age of 22, Marlin had a 7-year-old daughter by the name of Kamari Canty, and he was also sent to prison for battery that same year. By February 2017, Marlin was released from prison, put on probation, and went to live with his mother and extended family members at 822 3rd Street in West Palm Beach, Florida. Marlin's mother, Robin, was in a relationship with a woman named Carlotta Crow, who had a daughter by the name of Kira Inglet, whom Robin considered to be her stepdaughter. Living in the house at 822 3rd Street was Carlotta, Kira, Robin, Robin's daughter, Jashima Tarver, her granddaughter, who was also Marlin's daughter, Kamari, and Robin's children, Marlin, Paris, Patrick, and Cordarius Joseph. Kamari and Kira had a bit of a conflict, which caused Marlin to become angry towards Carlotta's daughter, Kira. Carlotta expressed to Marlin that Kira had no issues with other children, but Marlin insisted that Kira had a bad attitude. It was late afternoon on December 28, 2017, when everyone at 822 3rd Street was going about their day partaking in different activities. Marlin was out when he received a text from Kamari letting him know about an incident she and Kira had. By the time Marlin came home, he saw that the girls had sorted out their issue. He communicated with his mother Robin that Kira had one more time to bother his daughter. He then went into a shared bedroom with his brother and started reading his Bible. Paris and Cordarius were outside on the porch. Robin was in the kitchen, and after some time, Marlin stopped reading his Bible and made his way to the kitchen to speak to his mother. Initially, the conversation was calm, but it escalated when the topic of Kamari's mother came up. Robin said that her heart became heavy because she knew her son had mental and behavioral issues. She asked Marlin to come outside with her so the younger girls would not be able to hear him yell or use foul language. After they went outside, Jashima got in the shower, leaving Kira and Kamari alone on the couch. Carlotta arrived at the house and Marlin confronted her. Jashima said that she heard a loud bang, so she turned off the shower to hear what was going on, and she overheard Marlin telling Carlotta that Kira has one more time to make me mad or to bother. She needs to leave my daughter alone. The next thing you know, Jashima said that she heard 3 more loud bangs and then Carlotta screaming to call 911. Marlin shot Carlotta and then chased Kira, who was trying to flee, and fatally shot her as well. Marlin's brother Paris tackled him and saw the gun in his hand, but Marlin was able to free himself. He ran in the house and then back outside and got in Carlotta's car and fled the scene. Robin and her other sons went to the police station and gave statements. Robin even went on live television asking her son, who was on the run for 4 days, to turn himself in.
I love you. You know I'm always going to love you. I'm going to be there for you, Marlin. But I also want justice for Carlotta and Kara.
Marlin was eventually caught and was indicted for 2 counts of first-degree murder with a firearm on January 18, 2018, with there being multiple discovery and motion hearings being held over the next couple of years.
Police say his cousin helped hide Joseph, and in court today, his mother, who dated the victim and considered the girl to be a stepdaughter, that story unfolding.
Some motions were about whether or not Marlin was competent to stand trial, and there was an expert appointed. On February 1st, 2019, it was found that Marlin was incompetent to stand trial, but in 2020, after being re-examined, he was declared competent to stand trial. Marlin's trial officially commenced on February 14th, 2020, and the jury was sworn in on February 19, 2020. During trial, Robin and Marlin's 3 brothers testified, although Robin and 2 of his brothers testified that they could not remember any events the day of the murders. Jashima and Paris were the ones who testified what happened that day and what they heard. Robin said to the court, Sentencing Marlin to life in prison won't change the fact that he's not mentally well. The healthy Marlin wouldn't hurt a fly. Marlin's lawyers Fred Susanek and Sean Wagner said he suffered from paranoid delusions and his fears caused him to pull the trigger. On February 24, 2020, the court heard the closing arguments and there was a recess at 11:30 in the morning. At 12:10 p.m., the jury asked for a lunch break and they reconvened at 2:00 p.m. The jury then came back with a guilty verdict on both counts. The closing arguments for the penalty phase began on February 26, 2020, and there were 15 witnesses who testified. Marlin objected that the state had made improper comments on silence, and the comment was, "Some murders are just different. These ones certainly were. The effect that they had is different, and the person that committed them has provided no mitigation worthy to allow him to live out his days in jail, and that's why I will ask that when you go back there, read everything. Read those jury instructions." This comment also caused Marlin to move for a mistrial, but it was denied. The judge then read the instructions to the jury, and they had a 15-minute break followed by a lunch recess, and they continued to discuss the penalty up until 3:00 p.m. The court was back in session when the jury reached its verdict on whether or not Marlin would be getting life in prison or death. There was a unanimous decision for Marlin to receive the death sentence. On May 30th, 2020, Marlin's mother Robin filed an affidavit stating that she was aware of juror misconduct and wanted a retrial, but her motion was denied. Marlin also requested to interview the jurors, but that was denied as well. The judge was quoted saying, "Marlin Larice Joseph, you have not only forfeited your right to live among us, but under this law of the state of Florida, you have forfeited your right to live at all."
Moreover, this court recognizes it must give great weight to the jury's recommendation of death. This court wholly agrees with the jury's unanimous recommendation based on an independent review and assessment of the aggravating factors and mitigating circumstances presented. This court finds the aggravating factors heavily outweigh the mitigating circumstances and that death is the proper penalty for the first-degree premeditated murder of Claude Crowell and for the first-degree premeditated murder of Kira England. The court further finds that it would impose these sentences irrespective of whether one or more of the aggravator factors were found not to have been proven or sufficient. Marlin Larice Joseph, you have not only forfeited your right to live among us, but under the laws of the state of Florida, you have forfeited your right to live at all. Marlin Larice Joseph shall be delivered into the custody of the Florida Department of Corrections at the Florida State Prison. You shall be confined there until a date certain selected by the governor of the state of Florida. As to count 3, for being a felon in actual possession of a firearm, Marlin Larice Joseph shall be sentenced to a term of 15 years imprisonment in the Department of Corrections with a 3-year mandatory minimum sentence. The sentence for count 3 shall run consecutively to the sentences pronounced in counts 1 and 2. Therefore, there is no jail credit to be awarded on count 3. You are hereby notified that this sentence is subject to automatic review by the Florida Supreme Court. Counsel will be appointed by separate order to represent you for that purpose. Marlin Larice Joseph, may God have mercy on your soul. This court is now in recess.
I need you guys to wait a little, please.
Marlin was officially sentenced to death on November 19, 2020. Since his sentencing hearing, there have been automatic appeals, with some having over a dozen issues or points. On point 13 of an appeal, Marlin's lawyers brought up a point that they felt would bring Marlin's case under review. In quoting the actual appeal, the state's penalty phase closing argument included improper and inflammatory exhortations, specifically appealing to the passions of the jury. This was error, rendering the sentencing phase fundamentally unfair. Appellant's counsel properly preserved this issue for review, Berger v. United States. It is fair to say that the average jury, in a greater or less degree, has confidence that these obligations, which so plainly rest upon the prosecuting attorney, will be faithfully observed. Consequently, improper suggestions, insinuations, and especially assertion of personal knowledge are apt to carry weight against the accused when they should properly carry none. More recently, the U.S. Supreme Court has held, this court has recognized that prosecutorial misconduct may so infect the trial with unfairness as to make the resulting conviction a denial of due process. To constitute a due process violation, the prosecutorial misconduct must be of sufficient significance to result in the denial of the defendant's right to a fair trial. Other points were denied, but in a statement, Marlin said, "My father was a football coach. Said the only time you regret is when you didn't do everything you could. We're confident that you all are going to do everything that you have been asked to do and more. So when you come to that decision, do not be afraid that you're going to regret it. Because remember too, ladies and gentlemen, your unanimous recommendation of death is just that. It's saying that based on what we've seen, based on what we've heard, based on those jury instructions, based on the aggravating factors that were presented by the state in light of the mitigating factors that were presented by defense, the correct sentence, the proportionate sentence, is death. When that gets turned in, ladies and gentlemen, this doesn't happen unless she thinks it should." And by she, he was talking about the judge. The court replied by saying, on December 28, 2017, he forfeited his right to those basic pleasures of life because that's what he stole from Kalata and Kira. There's going to be no newspaper articles for Kira, no sports to be played because of him. The facts and the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, make it so that returning a recommendation of death is not going to be seen as disproportionate, it's not going to be seen as immoral, it's not going to be seen as wrong. Ultimately, the trial court denied the motions for a mistrial on all points, and Marlin is still currently on death row. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Death Row Executions for this Sentence to Death segment. Let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments below, and also a big shout out to all of my YouTube channel members and my patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for the support.